Welcome to a new episode of Film Seizure at the Movies. I'm Geoff Arbuckle, co-host of the Film Seizure podcast that you can catch each Wednesday morning with my cohorts Jason Oliver and Chuck Moore, and my solo show Monster Mondays each Monday afternoon. And you can catch both of those at filmseizure.com. And speaking of those cohorts, Jason and Chuck are here with me to talk about the new Netflix release, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, a movie that aggressively dared me to hate it. So welcome, gents. What did you think of this new Texas Chainsaw Massacre?
This is fair to middling, and it exceeded my expectations, which I had none.
I had none, and it didn't. It was like me trying to dunk. Anyway,
I think that this movie is fine. But it's not good, but it's fine. It's perfectly fine.
It is not.
It really is.
I'll explain that a little bit more later.
I thought there were some good parts to this movie. I thought there was some annoying stuff, but there was nothing. Overall, I'd say it's benign to me.
Yep.
But I like some of it.
I mean, here's the thing. I really, really didn't like this movie. Now, I'm not, and I think I have to come to a realization here on a couple of things, but let it be known, I am not one of those reactionary ass jerks online.
You sure about that?
Positive.
Okay.
That just sees something and says, "Oh, this is going to be terrible poop."
It felt like you went into this wanting to hate it, though.
Well, no, here's the thing. I was 100% on board with the trailer until the very stupid line.
Yeah.
And then I realized, oh, it's going to be that type of movie.
But honestly, that was like pretty benign in the context of the movie, I thought.
Yes, but the problem was that it explained to me that this movie was going to have something it didn't need. And I'll get to that here in just a second. But I maybe have to come to the realization, after not really liking Halloween Kills, being a very unenjoyable watch for me, that maybe what I prefer is just to not see these old characters around anymore. We don't need them.
Yeah.
I mean, so in one regard, I can say I looked at this movie, I watched it, I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all. But, Chuck, you're right. This is a relatively benign movie. Yeah. Some people are going to like the kills, at the very least. I will say that there are two things I can give positives to. But both of the things I give positives to hurt it as a Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie.
I know what you're driving at, and I agree with you. I don't even know what the two things are. I think I do, but yes. This movie, the biggest weakness this movie has is that it's a Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie.
Yes, because this movie looks too good and has way too much blood
for a Texas
Chainsaw Massacre movie.
But here's where I think we need to establish something. This is the 9th Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie, and only the first one, which is obviously the best one, is really a good movie. Right.
Although 2, I think, is a much more enjoyable watch.
Oh,
because it's over the top.
I love 2.
Yeah.
But 2 isn't really a Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie either. No. It's a parody of one.
True.
By its own creator, right?
Right.
And then in that sense it works because it's Tobe Hooper essentially riffing on his own movie, right? The problem with everything that came after was it was all like singularly focused on one character, your Leatherface character, and every movie had to outdo the last one with gore and violence. And this movie does that as well. I mean, it's easily the most violent of them all, I would think.
I mean, what are you going to do at this point? I haven't seen
some of the newer ones, but
what are you going to do at this point other than have Leatherface crawl through the TV screen and chop you up to be more gory than this one?
Right. So that's the thing. Like the fact that this is a Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie is its biggest weakness. If you had just made him a benign, like kind of generic chainsaw killer instead, and sort of made it a sneaky Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie, it would have been more. It would have had less expectation behind it.
Right. Sure.
But the fact that anyone expects anything like grand from a Texas Chainsaw Massacre in 2022 is already a little delusional in my opinion.
Sure. And I didn't expect anything grand. What I would have almost liked to have just seen, we're just completely and totally either, I mean, they could have just simply copied the first movie.
Well, they've already done that once.
Well, fair enough. But they could have sequelized it and copied it at the same time, right? Because this desperately wants to be a sequel to the original because they bring back the one surviving character. Not the truck driver guy, though. I wonder what happened to him. Anyway, that's the guy I want to know about. The guy who just fucks off. And it's like, I'm out of here. let you people deal with this yourself.
He made a call and it wasn't answered somewhere.
Sure. Oh, yeah. That's a little tease for next month 7. It's not even my desk. We just recorded that episode, everybody. So look for that next month. Anyway, here's the thing. And we are going to probably, I have to get into spoilers here in a little bit, I think, or in a short bit. The problem with this is that you have these characters who are, I guess they're like social media people.
They're influencers. They come to this town to, they bought this town.
They didn't do a very good job of that.
Yeah, they thought they thought they had bought all the property, but they aren't sure about this one location. When they
they're sure about it until they're not.
Right. But these characters are whatever. I don't hate them like you do.
Well, two of them,
but they're underwritten for sure.
Yeah. Two of them are completely and totally underwritten, with one having a history that is far more interesting.
Yes.
Than anything ever in Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah, 8th grade girl. What's that actor's name?
It's Elsie something.
Elsie Fisher.
She has a really interesting backstory.
She does,
but they don't go anywhere with it. It's very shallow. Yeah.
One girl who you don't even get a chance to dislike gets killed almost immediately. But then you have the two primary people who are setting up this town, and they are so abrasive at times. Well,
I didn't feel that really.
Okay. One guy is to blame for everything that happens.
Yeah, and he's a little douchey. I agree.
He's super douche.
But
the woman, you almost expected to have been that person to have started, because she mouths off to. You don't fucking mouth off to a guy who's carrying a gun in Texas. Don't fucking do that.
All I'll say is that we know people that would say something like that. So it's not unrealistic.
It's not unrealistic. It doesn't make them likable.
I don't know that some of these people that we know probably aren't likable either.
I mean, I don't find them overly unlikable, to be honest.
Me neither.
And even the one guy's girlfriend volunteers to go with the woman in the ambulance, which she doesn't have to do. And she's very benevolent in that act.
She might be the actual one likable character. Too bad that she doesn't make it through 20 minutes.
But it doesn't matter, because it's an 80-minute movie and all these people are just there to die.
Technically, it's a 73-minute movie.
73 minutes, yeah.
Because there's 8 minutes of credits.
All these people are just there to die. That's all.
Yeah, and that you're already off to a wrong. That was one of my problems with Halloween Kills. You also set up this other scenario.
That concept, though, doesn't make me hate a movie. It just makes me understand. Oh, I'm just watching trash. Okay, and I can enjoy trash.
I was in
a mood. I was in the perfect mood to watch this movie last night.
Fair enough.
I had just got back from dinner. I had several drinks. I was like, I'm ready to sit down on the couch and watch some trash sober at 1 a.m. I was like, this is a vibe.
I was stone cold sober, and I hated every minute of it. It made me want to drink after.
I number one, purposely didn't go into it with any real critical intention, even though we're doing this review. But I don't think a movie like this really needs any kind of critical attention. It needs a vibe. It needs the right setting, and you can enjoy it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to say that it can't be enjoyed. And maybe 10 years from now, we do an episode on Texas Chainsaw Massacre. We watch all fucking 27 of them that are probably going to be made by then.
I can't wait. Why not?
No, I can't wait. Yeah.
I'm in.
But
I love to torture myself.
But at the same time, though, it's like there were little things. It was the little things. And it's always going to be the little things.
Yes,
it is.
If you ever write a movie review book,
It's going to be called the little things.
The little things. It's the little things.
It's the little things because it's like this movie introduces a backstory that doesn't really tell us much. It's like we have and we're going to get into spoilers here, I guess. We have a backstory with with the one character, Lily or Lila, I can't remember what her name was in the character, but she's a survivor of a school shooting. So, and then she's got this overprotective sister who's kind of an asshole. My words, not any of yours. I'll take the ownership of that.
She's kind of an asshole.
She is kind of an asshole.
Yeah, I'll agree with that.
She wants to buy this town. I did chuckle at the one guy who's helping the contractor.
Fuckers. Oh, yeah.
The guy who says, is this a cult or something? It's like, no, it's just going to be a place where we'll all, like-minded people. Oh, it's a cult.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah. I liked him.
I did actually like him. And I think that was part of my problem was that there was I felt a manufactured division between the characters that were unnecessary. Like there was a political division between these characters. And it's like, this can be done well. This feels shoehorned.
It's a social commentary that doesn't need to probably be in the movie.
Not in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Right. But at the same time, I do like... Not to derail your stuff, but when they get pulled over by the cops the
cops were actually kind of cool.
They were, and there was a lot of subversion of.
There was a moment there where it's like, oh, these guys are going to see the black driver and they're going to. No, they weren't like that at all. They were like, oh no, everybody knows who you are. That's fine. And they were like, yeah, I hope good luck. Basically,
give us a call if there are any problems.
Exactly,
we're here to help.
Here's a card, and we're here. We'll be there, and lickety split, which they were.
Yeah.
Until also likable characters who get killed.
Yeah.
But it's just like they find out that they don't have every building in this town under ownership, and the way that they approach that is aggressive. Now, granted, without that, there's no driving of the rest of the movie.
Right.
But again, it kind of feels like, well, what do we have to have happen to get from where we are now to the next thing, which is Leatherface happens and kills everybody. And it's like, it starts to show its hand that this is either extremely underwritten.
Oh, it's very underwritten.
Or it was chopped to hell in the editing process.
I wonder how much
because a 73-minute movie with an 8-minute credits, that's atrocious.
I wonder how much Fede Alvarez had to do with the script, because he's credited as a writer on this, and my guess is maybe he did some rewrites or something. He probably didn't.
Maybe did a little bit of punch up or something.
Yeah, but I mean, his name means something, at least to me. He's pretty decent writer director of horror, but
was he the one who did Evil Dead?
Yeah.
And I like that Evil Dead remake.
Good. It's good.
It's not as fun as the originals, but that's not its point.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
But anyway, Chuck, we haven't heard from you much.
Did you just miss the whole last 5 minutes?
I did a little bit. Okay. Yeah. But what did we were chatting about this movie?
Yes.
While we were watching it last night, you were a little bit ahead of me, and we were enjoying it.
Right.
I mean, it can be enjoyable, I think. If you just don't let yourself get too caught up in the fact that I don't know. It just to me it is junk. It's junk food, and I'm gonna let it. And I enjoy junk food.
But it's like junk food that's like an Almond Joy.
I like Almond Joys.
There is no joy in that for me. A Mounds.
You guys were talking earlier about how they could have rehashed the first movie and make it a sequel. I actually appreciate that they tried new stuff, even the stuff that didn't work. Like the whole idea of gentrification and killing pests. Like, what do you do with an invasive species? You kill it on sight. Like that. Whole idea of this movie is centered around that. Like, you don't mess with
Texas.
You don't mess with Texas. Sure. We'll go with that. Don't mess with Texas.
Here's the thing. I agree. I think there is something really interesting there, because one of the early notes that I made as I was watching the movie play out, it's like, the otherism in this is strong, because there is the idea of these rich, uppity people kind of coming in and taking over something that has a history. And we, we kind of talked about this, another thing that we talked about, and when we release our 7 episode, there's a little bit of Hills Have Eyes in this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where, these people who don't really belong here are kind of imposing themselves onto this. And there's something there to explore. It would be kind of like the first movie with exploration of that idea of these people aren't supposed to be here. It's not just the happy accident that these people ended up
right
in the muck.
Yeah.
There is something there. I just feel like it's poorly written.
Yeah, I mean, there's even the theme that would have been great of the survivor's guilt.
Yes,
that is just kind of like
that
mentioned,
is there, man. Yeah,
but it needs more. So while I don't know if this was a 2-hour movie, do you think it would be better, or even an hour and 40 minutes?
It add just maybe 7 minutes longer to make it a full 90 could be something.
Yeah,
some of that stuff could have been explored a little bit better. Instead, I just kind of feel like they decided to lean heavy on just kills.
Oh yeah,
on just the look of something that this movie doesn't feel dirty.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel lived in.
It doesn't feel like a Texas movie.
No.
Not to talk shit about fan films, but it feels like a fan film
Yes.
centered around
Yeah, I agree.
the bus scene. Like, we have this really great idea for a fucking rad scene.
Yeah.
Which, honestly, it's fucking rad.
It is.
It is a cool scene. But again, that's a cool scene for Jason Voorhees.
Man, I don't...
Or like an undead.
Put any of those guys in there, and
Sure.
I probably will enjoy it, except
Yeah,
for
sure.
Chucky. He would have a problem.
Well,
Although, I don't know, that could be funny.
First thing I thought of was, yes, it's definitely a Jason Voorhees scene, but it's Pinhead at the party in 3. You know,
which is that movie's
the best part of that movie.
It's the center piece of that movie. Yeah.
It's the linchpin.
Yes.
My jokes are as good as the jokes in this movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, there is something interesting about the fact that you're right. Those are two very interesting character components or themes in a movie that decides not to further explore them at all.
Right, which makes me think that there is another version of this movie.
Could very well be. Very, very well could be. And maybe someone got nervous as like it's not actiony enough. I don't know.
Very possible, because
we need to add all the kills.
I can understand the Melody character, even though I didn't like her. I felt that there were parts of her that could have become likable in the first half of it. Like, I appreciate that she ultimately wanted to protect her sister, but there's stuff at the beginning of the movie where it's like, wow, she goes from you need to get out of this place to, oh my God, I've killed this person. I need to go with her to the hospital and all of this. And it just feels like it was like whiplash. It was for that character.
Well, she's a city person dealing with people that she normally wouldn't. So she's using the tactic you do need to use in big cities with people. Like, get the fuck out of here. This is my place.
Yeah,
right.
But it doesn't.
At least she comes
work.
around. The other guy, her partner in this venture, never comes around to that, and he's the most unlikable.
Well,
person.
he doesn't have much time to.
Yeah,
that's true. That's true. But yeah, and then there's a lot of confusion for me that this is even actually Leatherface.
Yeah,
because I've heard it both ways.
All right, so I was confused as well about the setting, and with him, I heard that the whole orphanage thing, but I was like, wait a minute, how does that really work?
He's a grown up in the original.
The interior of that house is very similar to the interior of the farmhouse. So at one part, I was thinking, did they build around the farmhouse? You know, like this city, did this little town like pop up around it?
Yeah.
So yeah, the setting confused me. Yes, very much so.
Yeah.
And the fact that he snaps, I guess, like he was kind of under her care.
Yeah.
And he had been maybe become less violent, but when she died, it all came back, and he was like a killing machine again.
But he would be like 75 years old.
Be extremely old, right? So I agree. That was all wonky.
Yeah, it's like it feels as though that this is somebody who was. And see, there's another backstory that's missing.
Did you wait for the stinger at the end of the credits?
No,
because it kind of answers that question that it's him. It's the original Leatherface. Yeah. Because he's spoiler. He's like walking back to the original farmhouse.
Well, that doesn't make a goddamn bit of sense. That feels like a studio.
This is like fan service movie, right?
In a little bit, yeah.
But this could have been better as Friday the 13th 5 instead of Friday the 13th 3,
right?
Or something like that, right? Like where it's the same guy. It would make sense because that's the other thing is also he is impossibly strong.
Yeah, he is. I told Jason while we were watching it was like if Chief from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest was a deranged killer.
Yes.
That's what it is.
And 75 years old, apparently, too.
Yeah. You know what? They saw Halloween 2018.
Totally.
Yes.
They saw that
That's my number one negative on this.
Yeah, they saw that you can bring back... Yeah, it is a ripoff of that. You can bring back the original character. You can bring back the original survivor. You can make it a revenge movie for everybody.
That doesn't really work, though.
No, Final Granny.
But at the same time, though, like...
Final Granny didn't make it.
I know, and that's where I think they wanted to differentiate. They were like, we'll bring her back. We'll make her all think she's going to be Jamie Lee Curtis. And then, of course, spoiler, she's dispatched pretty quickly.
And stupidly. She's a stupid character.
She doesn't come prepared at all.
She has a weird hang up on how she wants this to go. And since we're doing spoilers,
it's odd. Yeah,
like she walks up on him, and she could just blow his fucking head off.
Yeah,
but in her mind, she needs him to recognize her, and she needs to catch him in the act.
Yeah.
Which is why he keeps the girls there. It's dumb, but at the same time, it's like you said, it's trash. It is the kind of movie you watch just to see people get killed and be like, where can they one up this other thing?
And I told Chuck too in our chat is like the violence doesn't really have an agenda, right? I hate like obviously women are dispatched, but men are dispatched just as gruesomely.
Right, yes, absolutely.
There's no like misogynist angle to the violence.
No, because most of the people on that bus are men that you see really get it.
Yeah. So in that regard, I appreciate
there are
horror that doesn't have
indiscriminate.
Yeah, is indiscriminate. Doesn't have like that, just a mean angle to it.
Yeah. No, I didn't think that this was as mean spirited as Halloween Kills, which was my number one complaint on that.
And it's also not as heavy handed with some of the thematic elements.
It is heavy-handed in the character elements, I think.
I agree, but it doesn't even allow that to develop.
No, because half this movie is someplace in the trash. Yeah, it's someplace on the floor someplace.
And the other half of it was pulled out of the trash.
Right, exactly. That same pile of trash that he deposited Sally.
They threw the whole thing out, and someone's like, I'm going to grab half of these.
I'm going to grab half of it. It's something good
We'll
here,
see what
right?
happens.
Yeah. Oh, look, all the kill scenes are here.
But if you're into dumb, stupid murder movies, this is fine. It's fine.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Okay. So no, I agreed that if this could satisfy some itch as kind of a mindless thing happening in the background. But if you start looking at it a little bit too closely, I tend to do that. I do a thing every week that I look at something a little too closely.
What we do.
It's what we do. I do things multiple times every week where I look at stuff a little too closely. You see the glaring holes. And the part of the problem is that I never, ever, ever hear the word Texas Chainsaw Massacre and think, oh man, Sally versus Leatherface was epic.
Right.
There's no need for her to be here.
No, they try to correct that whole thing, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, it's like I one of my things I really liked about Halloween Kills was the mistake that Laurie was making by thinking that Michael Myers is coming for her.
Right.
I like that because that's psychosis. I don't believe for a second, or I never thought for a second, that the same thing would be happening with Sally. I was perfectly fine with what Dennis Hopper said in Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, which is she went absolutely crazy, which she looked pretty crazy at the end, and never spoke another word.
Yeah.
That seems more realistic.
Yeah.
And so to bring her back just for her to be part of the pile of dead bodies is that's a bad trash. That's bad trash.
I would not disagree. The handling of the character was it felt essentially like a stunt.
Yeah.
To sell audiences on the movie and to give it a reason for happening.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, again, with the look of this movie, I will give it positives that even though it does not really feel gritty and grimy and dirty and Texas-y, it looks great.
It's not sweaty enough.
It's not sweaty enough at all. I loved the idea of, I loved where he left, where Leatherface left his caregiver. And how he kind of popped up out of the, as silly as it kind of seems like, hey guys, that he pops up out of those flowers. It's a cool shot.
It looks cool. I think is that the shot I think I mentioned to you.
Yeah. And him holding up her face, like,
and the headlights of the van and the way that shines through the sunflowers. Yeah. It's a cool shot.
That's cool. I mean, all of that stuff is very cool. And yes, the look of that kill inside the bus is fantastic. Even though, I'll give it to you, Jason. He did do the thing he needed to do after the dumb line. What are we doing if he's not killing that guy who wants to cancel him?
What are we doing here?
But then there's the weird whole stuff that the anti-gun violence statements, and then for it to end with gun violence.
Yeah.
That's weird.
Well, really,
there's a weird
chainsaw violence. But
well, sure. Well, that's true. We'll talk about that here in a second because that's another positive. I really did like the ending. But it interjected ideas and concepts and a politics to it. I was like, I don't understand what this movie's trying to tell us.
It felt to me like we need to punch up these characters, but they had no time to develop it.
Yeah.
They
vapid.
were just adding character ideas.
Yeah. Well,
to give them just the hint of depth,
enough depth for you to root for their deaths.
Yeah. Or I think probably what they're going for is to make you somewhat sympathetic.
To who?
To the people they die. Like in some circumstances, like the redneck.
The contractor
mechanic. Yeah.
Yeah, the contractor. Guy. I thought that guy was going to be the hero.
He had kind of like this really quick arc that made his death hurt a little bit.
Yeah,
it's the only one I cared about.
Yeah,
really. To be totally honest.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe the blonde in the beginning because she didn't have enough time to make me
right. It's like, what's going on with her? I want to see more of her at least.
Yeah. Here's my biggest criticism. I think. Well, maybe not my biggest, but it's not a scary movie.
No, it's not.
They've forgotten.
It's a cartoon.
I think people have forgotten really what made the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre so good.
What's the line from American Movie about it being something that you'd see in science class?
Oh, yeah.
Like you're not supposed to see it?
Right. Yeah. That for all of its shocking nature, you don't see a lot on screen in Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Right?
It's almost PG-13.
It's the idea that it could be real.
Yeah.
It's that it could happen.
That implied violence, that assured, steady, creative force who knows what they want and knows what's effective. That's a lot of the problem with modern horror is they feel like there's only two movies that people are making right now. Like slow burn horror, right? Or gore horror. And maybe neither one are as effective as they should be because we've kind of become used to it.
Well, they're being made. It's almost as if, there are two sides of horror, and you have to make a movie for one side or the other. You can't be smart enough to combine it.
Yeah. Exactly. There are very few people doing that today. I think maybe Ari Aster's one of them.
Yeah, but you got to get the gore people to want to go see his movies,
right?
And not bitch about it,
right? Which they're gonna,
they're gonna. Yeah.
And I think this movie at a certain point tried to appeal to both, and then gave up and just went
gave up 5 seconds in,
and then just went full on gore. Yeah.
The stuff with Melody under the bed, that was building.
That's good stuff.
That's building good tension.
Yeah,
that's a good scene.
And the way that she reacts to seeing
well, he got his head caved in.
No, I mean when she sees him and how she tries to help him and all that stuff is that's cool. Really cool.
That's smart.
Yeah. I would have liked more of that for sure. But
and I like the fact that he picked up on it. That he wasn't just like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah, you're a weirdo.
You're right, you weirdo curly-haired girl.
I don't know. I feel like if we talk too much about it, we're going to give everything away.
Okay. Well, I did like the very end. I thought that was very clever. That was the one clever thing. But one of the reviews that I saw made a very good point that the trailer was easy to sell this movie. You could have sold this movie so easily just on frames of this movie. And we talked about that. The scene in the flower field. Yeah. Looking at him in that neon bask of light, in the bus. You could sell that to somebody very easily. The problem is that it almost comes across like a Canon film in the end, where it's like you sold everybody on something that it cannot live up to.
Yeah. Yeah.
And either it's going to be okay, or, you're gonna hate it. And
the irony of that is that Canon actually made a really fun Texas Chainsaw Massacre
absolutely.
movie.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah, this movie, they needed to dig up Dennis Hopper.
Yep.
Throw him in there. Maybe he was the guy in the field, in the flower field.
Needed some Bill Moseley.
Oh, always need some Bill Moseley.
I always take some Bill Moseley.
All right. So yeah, no, I say a no vote for me, and a probably mild yes for you guys.
I would say know what you're getting into, and you can have fun.
Yep, I agree. Watch it with a buddy.
Yeah,
I wish I'd have done that. Yeah. Because then we could have had fun ripping on it,
right?
You know, but I have no friends.
Oh,
you guys are just here for the exposure.
The exposure to COVID.
Yep. I got you. Anyway, that'll do it for this. Don't forget to follow Facebook or follow Film Seizure at Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, where we are going to end up buying a town that happens to be where Killer lives.
Yep.
That way you can also be made aware of new episodes and our impending deaths. But you can also follow us at podcast providers like SoundCloud, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, TuneIn, Stitcher, Spotify, and Audible. You can also listen to the show on YouTube by subscribing there. I'll be back in 2 weeks with a review of Robert Pattinson and the Batman. Yes. So, until then, don't forget to save me the aisle seat.